What's up, City Sports Network? I'm back here with a special guest today, Mr. Alex Coleman, wide receiver for the Columbus Lions. Alex, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No problem. So, man, you've been having a crazy season with the Columbus Lions. Talk about how you think this season has gone overall for you and your team.
For the team, the season has gone as good as can be expected. We was hit with a couple surprises going into 2023, both leaving the NAL, having some ownership changes, things like that, trying to find a league that we could keep running operations. Because once you tank or you shut down for a year, you kind of lose your momentum. You know what I mean? So we've been doing good. We've handled the teams that we've been playing in the fashion that we should. It hasn't really been any hiccups, any tough games like that. We've handled it the way that I would say our ownership and our coaches would want us to. It's been pretty professional. Hasn't been that much off the field issues either. Um, and I mean, we win in the games convincingly. Offense looks good, defense looks good, so we can only do what we can with the talent that we play.
Is it hard, playing teams that are like semi-pro teams and you guys are like pro?
It's hard. Um, I would say for our veteran guys, it's not hard because we know that you just show up and do the job. You know what I mean? You take it for what it is. Our guys that have played in the IFL or the AFL or the NAL, we know what that brand of ball looks like. You know what I mean? So we take what we're doing with a grain of salt because it doesn't matter who you play, you still have to play your game. You know what I mean? I think for our younger guys, that's more so the message that we want to send with them is to not get complacent with what we're doing. You know what I mean? But you got to handle business. You know what I mean? You still got to throw the ball, catch the ball, make tackles, score touchdowns. Like that doesn't change regardless of who you play.
I feel that for sure. You got to keep going. So taking back to going a little farther back to your high school career. How was your high school career overall? What sports did you play? Where did you go to high school? All that.
I went to Columbus Eastmore Academy High School in Columbus, Ohio. I played basketball. I played football. I played baseball. I ran track. Um, I was also in the leadership programs off the field. I was in our choir and ensemble. I did some of our theater as well, a couple of plays and things like that. I was a 4.0 GPA student. Uh, I would say my baseball came easy because of my athleticism. Just didn't enjoy it. I wasn't able to run track as much because of my basketball career. Like football and basketball are my main things. I'm one of the only guys from my school to be an all-state player in both. I actually almost didn't go to school and play football. I almost went to school and played basketball because of a couple of certain things that happened with scholarships falling through and things like that. Originally, I was going to Louisville, and I ended up going to Ashland University. I went there, played a little bit, but in terms of back to high school, my senior year, I started all 4 years on varsity. I played offense, defense, punt return, kick return. My senior year, we went to the state championship. We ended up losing. I ended up second up setting the receiving record for the state championship game. Um, but we were one of only two teams of our city to ever go to the state, so it was a big deal then. So it's an inner city high school, but one of the upper echelon schools in terms of academics. So that's how my high school career went in basketball. I played for All Ohio Red in the same backcourt as CJ McCollum that plays for the Blazers. Um, High school, we ended up winning the district. We went to the regional. So we was pretty good in basketball as well. We played against guys like Trey Burke and Jared Sullinger in our city championship and stuff like that. So my high school career was pretty good all around.
So after high school, how was your recruitment process? What was that like for you?
Um, my recruitment process was wild. I went from one of the top receivers in the state of Ohio to a number of I had 6 offers, 6 Division I offers. I'll say that, and I was gung ho about Louisville. I love Louisville Cardinals. My sister went there. I went down to travel with them a lot. Did a bunch of things with Louisville, so I was committed to Louisville. I ended up not going. There was a coaching change, which I didn't get reoffered, which is, I mean, that happens. Then I decided, I was going to fall back on Youngstown State. Our coach, that was recruitment coach Mills, ended up leaving and went to Washington. My last resort was going to Miami University, but the scholarship that they had for me, they ended up giving away. So Ashland was the first school to offer me a scholarship. They offered me their biggest scholarship, and I ended up turning it down because I was going to go to Louisville. And I ended up having to circle the wagons and go back and ask them, everything for me has fell through. Can I come back? And they ended up splitting my scholarship and giving it to two other players. So I ended up going to Ashland on like partial athletic. The other partial was academic. And I mean, that's really just how it went. I ended up transferring. I went to Ohio Dominican University in the D2 GLIAC. I ended up starting there at corner on defense, and it just wasn't for me. So I ended up transferring the final time to Capital University in the Ohio Athletic Conference, and I started there for 3 years as a punt returner and a receiver. And I ended up being an all-conference All-American there. So it worked out. I would have liked things to go a little bit differently, but I'm a firm believer that God's puts you exactly where you're supposed to be at that moment. So
How was your like academically switching schools multiple times?
it was rough. I originally went to school with the aspirations of being a pre-med student. Then I transitioned to athletic training. But in terms of that, I majored in athletic training and I majored in English as a double major. And the athletic training portion of it just started getting heavy because the hours that we needed to accumulate for um, like hands-on service and stuff like that, most of our department was getting them during football season because it offered the most. So I couldn't get those hours. So I ended up changing to exercise science, which was cool. But when I transferred to Ohio Dominican, they didn't have that program yet. So I ended up just using a year there in sport management, which I didn't like at all. Once I got to Capital, I stuck with the exercise science, but it was a issue where being a fifth year, that last year, financial aid wouldn't pay for your fifth year. So I had to find something that my credits would transfer to that would allow me to graduate on time. So I ended up majoring in communication studies, which I actually ended up liking because it was majority of public speaking, structured debates, argumentative debate classes like that, a few theater here and there, and also a lot of psychology courses, which I really appreciated because I like to study, how the mind works and how we as people transition through our feelings and emotions and things that we can do to be better ourselves, and also how to deal with people, how to interact with people. You learn that better when you learn how people operate.
So you seem very like multiverse. You're involved in a bunch of, you were involved in a bunch of different things in high school and college. What do
Mm-hmm.
you do right now outside of football in terms of like work and
Outside of football, I work in finance. I was a account manager for Discover Financial, but I ended up leaving for this season because I just want to transition to something different. I also do skill specific training, but I'm very patient with that because I don't want to get into that until I can fully commit to doing it. Like I want to train guys that are not necessarily children, but people that know that, like athletes that know that this is what they want to do. Because I know how much commitment that it takes. And I also do outreach and mentorship because we need it, especially in the young black male area. A lot of homes are lacking those role models that can tell you the truth of it without some type of ulterior motive. I'm not looking to make money from sabotaging the kid. You know what I mean? Like I just want the kids and also their parents to be knowledgeable going forward about what are the right stances, right movements to take. Like my parents are blue collar parents. They didn't know anything when it came to the recruiting process or what the next step should be taken. So my goal is to make sure that no kid falls short in that area. Athletically, I had everything. Academically, I had everything, but I just didn't have the guidance. You know what I mean? To make the right decisions that would have pushed me in the best situation moving forward. So I want to make sure that the young guys that look up to me, that know me within my city, that reach out to me through any platform, know that I'm available to speak to them or to their parents about what would be the most strategic plan to go forward. You know what I mean?
For sure, that's really important. Be involved with the youth and giving back to your community and helping like the younger generation be
Yeah,
successful.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
see you on Instagram a lot, and I see you like tagging IFL teams and NAL teams. What are
Mhm.
your goals for your career? You would say maybe in the next 1 to 2 years.
Within the next one or two, I tag IFL teams and NAL teams because originally we were an NAL team. You know, I played in the original NAL with the Corpus Christi Rage and then with the High Country Grizzlies, where it was a more stable league. You know, at the time I think we had 8 teams, maybe 9, because that's when we had the team in Monterrey, Mexico, Lehigh Valley, Columbus, Jacksonville, um, Corpus Christi. Like it was a wide spectrum of teams that were all solidified, and the talent was too because the AFL wasn't playing. And going forward, I think it's moved more from having something to prove to someone else versus proving to myself. Like I was one of those guys that kind of hit the ground at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Like AFL was in a transitional period, so you kind of missed it. You know, like and then when I did get there, I was right on the outside of popping. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's really all it takes. Like I have a good friend that uh, named Malachi Jones. We were teammates. Me and Darius Prince were teammates. Me and somebody like Varma Sony, who I talk to all the time, who I look forward to speaking with all the time because he tells me like how once you got into the AFL, you pretty much stayed in the AFL. Like I got on the cusp of the AFL with Cleveland, did really well, signed in their practice squad. They ended up losing in the playoffs, and that season was over. Coach Tun didn't come back. So the next season, I ended up playing in the NAL, had a good season in the NAL, signed back to the High Country Grizzlies, and they left the league. They went to play in the AAL, which at that year, the AAL had a lot of talent. Um, my Atlanta Havoc team, we won a championship, but my team was full of AFL guys. Uh, that year, the my quarterback, um, he my quarterback Brooks, he was the starting quarterback for the Macon, Georgia team, and they were what they called the Georgia Doom. They had guys on their team like Brooks, like Larry Beavers, like Antron Cutts, like Kyle Chandler, who played for the Philadelphia Soul. He's the starter for the San Antonio Gunslingers. So the league as a whole had a ton of talent. It just changed. So I would say like within the next 2 years, it's kind of just having that opportunity not to be the guy, but to be one of the guys. Like I don't really believe that there should be one guy on the team. I thought those are the worst teams. In the receiving core, it should be 3 dudes, at least 3 dudes as killers. You got to guard all of them. It ain't just one guy. So I would say within the next 2 years to maximize whatever opportunity that there is. But I've gotten to the position now, having done and accomplished things that I think my talent, my way of playing the game is respected. You know, in any capacity, when I've been put out there in a position to succeed, I do it. You know, so I would say like within the next 2 years, that's all I want to do. You know, pretty much solidifying my stamp on it. You know what I mean? I want to be part of an organization that's also committed to me. I don't want to have to jump around, and also I think it's something that I've learned is not having a team where I'm a local guy. I'm always traveling. Like Ohio, we don't have that presence like the North Carolina. Like Florida, where there's arena teams where our names are locally known. You know what I mean? We're always traveling somewhere, so it's like being in Columbus. It's been a breath of fresh air, and I'm committed back to Columbus unless another opportunity comes. Our season ending now. I would like to play with another NAL team to finish the season, but it's if that opportunity rises, I can't make that happen. You know what I'm saying? But I think the reason I tag the teams also is because the talent we playing, it can sometimes make people think that the guys that are playing are not talented. Like our team is talented. The guys that we play, I don't want to take anything away from them. I wouldn't say that they're on our level. You know what I'm saying? But I would say that our team itself is talented. We got guys that were all arena, you know what I'm saying, that play on our team. So it's like you just want to be. My goal is just to be on an organization where I can give my all to them and they get it all back to me. Whether it's IFL, NAL, AFL, you know, wherever we decided to land with the Lions, I think that was the major thing is knowing like we all committed to the Lions, knowing this was a transitional year. You feel me? Like we dropped out right before the season. You know what I mean? Most of the camp rosters was already solidified in the NAL. So we either stay or we search for somewhere else. You know what I mean? And you kind of get tired of searching for somewhere where you know that that's not how the game within the game works.
So I find that really interesting. You know, you have all those experiences. High County and Corpus Christi are both not around anymore, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Without like, what do you think went wrong with those two organizations, and how was your experience playing for both of them? Because I believe High County was in where Utah.
High
Uh,
Country was in Boone, North Carolina, where Appalachian State is.
okay,
That's
yeah.
where me and Malachi was there together. That was his rookie year.
So
So
how was that experience for you, like playing for those
it
two
was
teams?
it was cool. It's the market sometimes. Like that's a college town. So the market going like getting people to come to the games. You make money off of filling the seats, and I feel like that was the issue with High Country in the NAL that year. There was a good season, but going forward, it's like it's not lucrative. It's not making any money, and that was the same thing that went on in Corpus Christi. Like Corpus Christi is set up so great. Like the arena is right there on the ocean, on the waterfront. The area loves football. It's Texas, you know what I mean? So Texas loves football, and it's right there on the border of Mexico. Corpus Christi just had the wrong. I would say the ambition at the front wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like we had some guy. We had. I'm not gonna say our ownership was bad because I don't think our ownership was bad. I think a lot of time when there's a team before, like there was the Corpus Christi Hammerheads, it's hard to be a team, and there was the Corpus Christi Fury. It's hard to have a team here that basically you just rebrand instead of creating a new organization. You know what I mean? It's kind of like what happened with the Cape Fear Heroes and then the Fayetteville Mustangs. You can't just rebrand the team. You got to understand that the league is different. The level of talent is different. The talent that would play, like I played in the X League one year, the XIFL one year for like 3 games with the Marion Blue Racers. The talent that was in the NAL is different than the talent that's in the XIFL. It just is, and a lot of it is just up front. The O line and D line is just different. You know what I mean? Like, and the quarterback play is different. The coaching is different. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of time, that's more so what it is. If you can't assume that you're going to bring what your old product into a new market. You know what I'm saying? Or your old product into a new business and keep the same market because it's different. It requires something different. You know what I mean? And I think that's why those organizations, in my opinion, failed. Like I've also been part of teams that just didn't come back, and that was just because their ownership wanted to go a different way. And I don't think Columbus, the AFL, and when I was here with the Columbus Destroyers, the AFL just folded. You know what I mean? Like I think Columbus was a great market, but the AFL just folded. You know what I mean? So that's what I think went wrong with those places because places like Greensboro, um, places like Cleveland. Places like Columbus Lions, where we're at, they love the brand. They love football. It's a great market. It's just about getting those people to the games. But also it's about who they're playing. Like I feel it's been a proven thing with over the years that more who you play also intrigues your fans because they want to see the opponents. You know what I mean? So I think that's another thing as well.
So, what do you think right now? I mean, the NAL, they dropped two teams in less than 2 weeks, Fayetteville and Albany. And, I mean, we see those two organizations kind of just go off the face of the league. The NAL now at 5 teams, the IFL is at 14, the CIF is at 7. What do you think is the best move for all those leagues with the AFL potentially coming back? And what do you think about the AFL coming back?
If it comes back the way that it's rumored to come back, I think it's great. Um, I think if it were me, the CIF teams, I think they should merge into the IFL because I think the original AFL markets that are in the IFL should go back. Like I think Iowa, Arizona, those original teams, I think they should go back to the AFL. I think the NAL being a league that was created to give the AFL guys somewhere to play once the league folded. I just think they're in a rough situation, in a transitional situation, because those markets, um, a lot of it is just the travel alone. Like it's not geographically set up right. I'm not gonna say right. It just doesn't geographically doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like having three teams in Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville is great from a schedule purpose because that's at least 6 games you can create. Having somewhere like two teams in North Carolina, it don't necessarily got to be Fayetteville again. Um, but just having two teams in a vicinity of each other, that does good for the market. Like San Jose and Arizona were close to each other, so they offered you at least 4 games, 2 to 4 games between each other. Um, I think also from the outside looking in, people think because the field is the same that the game is the same. Arena football and indoor football are not the same game, not even close. And that's what I think where people get lost up in the transition. Like you recruit a different roster to play in an arena football team versus an IFL team or an indoor football team. You want a different type of running back because arena doesn't use a running back. You want different types of DBs. You want a different type of quarterback. You really want a quarterback that can use his legs in the indoor game, and that's good on the run in terms of throwing. The arena guy, we want somebody under center majority of the time because it lines up with 30 and 50 protection. You want him under center and you want him to be able to spin it. You don't necessarily need him to do no running. That's a plus, but you don't need that. So I think that's more what it is in terms of the spectrum. Like if they can really get a solid group that's a solid group of teams that geographically makes sense, I think the league will last. But it can't be a sole ownership either. Like I don't think you can have a guy with his hand on 4 teams. You know what I mean? Like I don't really believe like that'll work. I think you need an ownership group that can at least carry, one franchise to make sure that it's not all spilling out of one pot because payroll, per diem, travel, um, appearances, like you have to pay for all of those things. You know what I mean? So trying to get that to come out of one owner's pocket is tough. You know what I mean? So I think that going forward, the AFL could be great. I just would hate to see the brand fold again. You know what I mean? But it's such a great sport. It really is. It's such a unique game that if we could get fans and people to fall in love with it again, like it's such a great sport. It's its own unique brand. Same way as IFL, it's its own unique sport. If we could just get that some way to be less leagues and say it was just 2 center leagues or at least just 3 leagues, that would work. And that's what I think should happen going forward. Because for a lot of guys, like if you've been at least there to experience, you want the younger guys, but you also want your chance to make sure that that happens as well. Because there are some great talented guys, and there are guys that I know that didn't get a chance to pop, and guys that did pop that are equally talented. They just didn't get a chance to show that. So that's what I look forward to with the AFL coming back, not just for myself, but for a lot of guys that I know that are cut from that same cloth, especially from a coaching aspect.
I see what you mean. So you seem like I could see you, getting into ownership or being a GM one day.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the whole like Mass Arizona situation
Yeah,
down there?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
seen it.
what do you think of like that whole situation? And if you were like commissioner of the indoor football league, what would you do?
I mean, you take a stance for correction, but I think one thing that's a misconception is people got to understand that these are grown men with families, with jobs. Um, they want to get home every day. They put a lot of time and effort in, sacrificing to be on that field to entertain them. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want. So don't put your hands on a player. Don't do anything of that nature. Now, I'm not saying I condone a player putting his hands on a fan because I don't know if that's what happened. But you're putting a player in a position to lose money. When you lose a game, you lose a game check. So I also think that in that way, if I'm a commissioner, I would want first of all the players to be able to contact me because I want to hear both sides. There's always three sides to a story: their story, your story, and what actually happened. So I'm not going to automatically assume because he has a uniform on that he's in the wrong. I'm never going to do that because something made him go in them stands or something made him retaliate that way. He didn't just do it on his own. So I think both people, that fan and the player, have to be held accountable to a sense, but don't do things where guys already don't make enough money to take more money off their table. You know what I'm saying? As long as everybody made it home safe, I think it's something that could be more so a slap on the wrist. Look, this can't happen again, or you're warned. But that player came there to play a game. He didn't come there for all that extra stuff. He didn't ask to be, egged on or any capacity. I don't know if the fan put his hands on him or what, but he didn't ask for none of that to happen. So what was he supposed to do? He's a grown man just like that person. You know what I mean? There's a way to conduct yourself, but I don't think he caused any bodily harm. I think it's just a way that you talk to him like, look, going forward to represent our league and our teams, we can't have this happen. That's it. Because it's a lot different when you're actually on the field in pads. Like I've heard, I've been had the things said to me like horrible things. You know what I'm saying? Like bro, I'm a player just like everybody. I'm a human being just like everybody else. What's all of that about? Some can be taken in good fun. As you get older, you learn to have thick skin. But once you cross the threshold of putting your hands on me, that's different. Don't throw no drink, don't throw no objects, nothing like that. So I think that's really how I would handle it as a commissioner. Like, look, call me, let's talk about what happened. Let's go forward so you can continue to make your money, get your film, which is more than your money, and keep things moving. Because we would rather have you on the field than sitting at home.
I 100% agree with you. As someone who's part of the Pirates organization, I see that too. And, I wish they took more time before they, suspended our guys and banned them. But I think that's the whole thing with these leagues. They need to make little improvements like that to separate themselves, as a
I think
top
that's
tier.
that's also the importance of. I think you have to have a guy that's a general manager, but also like your player personnel, your player relations, your football operations guy needs to be a guy that's actually been in those moments. You know what I mean? Because oftentimes you get ownership groups. You get ownership and leaders of the teams that haven't actually been players. So they have a different point of view on a subject. You know what I mean? They don't know it from actually being there with the pads on and that specific moment. So I think there needs to be a perfect marriage at the top of each team that's like that. Because then they can't make a subjective opinion about it because it's like you've never been in that situation, so you don't know what it's like. You know what I mean? I think that would heal a lot of issues that go on with teams, because it's like, all right, I've been in his shoes, so let's not be so hasty to make a decision on the rest of his career, the rest of the season, his money, his this and that, because a guy that's been in those situations would know, like, hey man, it ain't like we playing for a lot. We're playing in the aspirations of getting a better opportunity. So I know, you wanna prove that you got a hold on your team and you want to do punishment stuff like that, but taking that man's game check away from him hurts. It ain't something that just can be seen at as, oh, he'll get over. Like, he needs every cent of that. You know what I mean? I think that's something that can be changed or that can be updated with a lot of teams. Like, you got to understand what it's like to actually be in those situations, not just as a coach, but someone that makes decisions amongst the team and the direction the team goes.
100%. I'll just speak for us too. Like right now, we're on a road trip in Arizona. We're at 21 man roster. Those three guys getting banned. Now we're down to 18. So now we have to bring in two guys to fly directly to Arizona. Who haven't played a football game before, while getting them adjusted while on the road. So it throws the teams in a rut. And I think sometimes these leagues don't really think about the consequences of that.
Yeah, for sure.
But Alex, I want to thank you for taking the time today to come on the show. My final question for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years, both on the field and in your personal life?
5 years from now, like I'm not a guy that puts like a limit on how many years. I'm just not going to be a guy that hangs on. You know what I mean? Like, I can still play the game at a high level, so I'm gonna still do it. But once I see myself in a position where I can't make the plays that I know I would normally make, that's where I'm like, nah. You know what I'm saying? I'll pretty much be done. You feel me? Like, um, I would say, like, I don't have a passion for coaching, but I do have a passion for football operations. So I could see myself doing that if that's an opportunity going forward. One of my best friends, he's actually a coach named Anson Yarborough. He's looking for a gig, and I think he's probably the most suited. Him, Coach Chris McKinney, those are two of the top guys I know right now. Mike Tatum, who's a coach for the Omaha Beef right now, just won a championship. Like, those are up and coming. Well, Coach McKinney's already solidified. He's done a lot of things. Anson has been a coordinator and a head coach in the AAL and the NAL. So he's, he kind of got caught up in that situation in Fayetteville, but he's definitely like next up, as well as Mike Tatum, football genius in the indoor game. You know what I mean? Who's definitely next up. So I'm definitely seeing on where we can, put some things together as well, because I would definitely like to see where those guys go and help them in any way that I can as well. I would say later on, I plan on, being a skills performance trainer and doing other things that could help people to reach their goals within the game. You know what I mean?
For sure, no, those are great, like goals and aspirations. I wish you best of luck. I know you guys are going to win that championship on July 15th, and just best of
Absolutely.
luck in your off season. Keep grinding, and I'll see you real soon.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. And y'all have rest of good season, and good luck with that whole situation with that player as well. I hope everything goes well.
Appreciate that, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm a game changer.